What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another YSL update as the state has filed a motion to extend the time before we hear Judge Glanville's recusal hearing. We'll talk about what's in that motion and what it means for the case. And then we're going to get into Attorney Bumpus's own YouTube page where she had Attorney Melnick on and Kenneth Copeland to talk about that secret ex parte hearing, talk about the transcript. They say it was not complete. What was left out? How important is it? We're going to break down and react to a few clips that you guys sent me and that we looked at from that YouTube video. So make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to our page, and let's get into it. All right, Dad, welcome in. Let's start here with this motion for enlargement of time. The state files a motion for additional time to file a response brief for the recusal motion. The state of Georgia hereby moves this honorable court for a 48-hour extension of time to respond to the defendant's motion to recuse the Honorable Chief Judge Ural Glanville. In the trial of the above style case, in support of this motion, the state shows this honorable court the following. Defendants Jeffrey Williams and DeMonte Kendrick, collectively the defendants, are currently being tried for charges of conspiracy to violate the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act, RICO, both defendant Williams and defendant Kendrick, and murder defendant Kendrick only. Defendant Williams filed a motion to recuse the Honorable Chief Judge Glanville on June 17, 2024. Defendant Kendrick filed a similar motion on June 12th. The Honorable Court entered an order requiring a response from the state no later than 5 p.m. Monday, July 8th, which is in fact today. The undersigned Chief Deputy District Attorney is preparing the state's response, but was unexpectedly called away from work after a medical emergency involving a family member occurred. As a result of the unexpected medical emergency, the state of Georgia respectfully moves this honorable court for an extension of 48 hours to file the state's response to defendant's motion to recuse. The state believes that it is imperative to the ends of justice that the matter of the motions to recuse be resolved as expeditiously as possible. The state will act without delay in submitting the state's response. We ask for a 48-hour extension only to ensure that the matter is properly addressed by the state, given the unexpected recent set of circumstances. Wherefore, the state respectfully requests the court grant its motion for additional time to respond, to file a response brief to the motion for recusal. All right, what are your thoughts there?
They're going to get it. And what I'm really surprised is why didn't they just ask the defense lawyers if they have any objection? Because normally there'd be a sentence in there saying defense lawyers have been contacted. They have no objection to this motion. No one's going to object to a 48-hour extension.
I agree. To me, it's interesting. I mean, does it indicate, the broken down communication or working habits or relationship between the defense and the prosecutor? Maybe.
Yeah. They're probably not getting along real well.
Yeah, that's definitely what it seems like. But, we'll see. I think they're going to grant it. It's just more time for the state to respond. It might not even have to extend or continue the hearing. But, we'll kind of see if the defense has to respond to their response. And, we'll see how it kind of bounces back and forth. But the main course for today's video was Kayla Bumpus, who is, in fact, or was at some point stand-in counsel for Kenneth Copeland during this ex parte hearing. Some thought she was kind of the leak to it. Turns out maybe that was not the case. I'm still not really positive myself. But you, Dad, and a lot of the commenters felt like there were things happening off the record or in addition to this transcript that made this transcript incomplete. She made this video. A bunch of people sent it to me saying, you're right. The transcript is not complete. They confirmed that in this video. But how important is it? We're going to find out. Interestingly enough, we hear from not only Attorney Bumpus, but also Attorney Melnick, who was his attorney at the time. And I've heard implications or inferences that the reason they wanted to withdraw if he was going to testify is because they knew he was going to get on the stand and lie, and they can't be his lawyer when he gets on the stand and lie, which is not exactly how it works if you're not asking the questions, right? Like, you can tell your client not to lie, but you don't have to withdraw if they're going to get up there and lie. But I understand why they would want to withdraw in that situation. So they're saying, I've heard that's what they were doing, is quiet quitting basically, or noisy withdrawal, letting the court know that we can't sit here and represent him while we know he's going to lie on the stand. So I do understand that. And that's kind of what they're inferring they were going to do. What were you going to say?
Well, there is a rule saying you have a duty of candor to the court.
Right.
And if your client's up there, even if you're not asking the questions, and your client's up there lying, you have a duty at that point to do something. Or if you know your client's going to get on the witness stand and lie, you're not supposed to be able to just sit back and do nothing. There are procedures in place for when you know your client's going to lie. So that's an ethical dilemma that a lawyer has, and he does have a duty of candor to the court to not let the court hear lies.
And like in this situation, Copeland said in the ex parte hearing, I'm just going to lie. I just lie. So at that point, it's not privilege. You can just tell the judge, I don't feel comfortable representing him. He just said he's going to lie. And so you could have had that conversation potentially, but this was a secret ex parte hearing with stand-in counsel. And just it goes to show how all of this was just done the wrong way, which created so many different issues and difficult ethical dilemmas for Bumpus and Melnick. And how to navigate this is not easy as a lawyer. All right, let's get into what she had to say.
We got, it's who everybody wants to know. Look who we got, guys. Everybody put a green heart in the chat for Melnick. Come on, he's not going to talk.
How you doing, Kayla?
How you doing?
I'm great. How about you?
Doing good. Look at all the green hearts you're getting.
Great. All right. Well, what do you want to know? What does everybody want to know?
What does everybody want to know? Okay. So, Melnick, can you first tell everybody that you do not pay me?
Of course not. Absolutely not. You were doing me a huge favor.
Okay, everybody's been asking about.
So the first thing was, you did not pay me, is what she asked. So for her to be stand-in counsel, she did it as a favor to Attorney Melnick to stand in for him. She was not even paid for that, which is, again, just part of the implications in the life of a criminal defense lawyer. I think she does personal injury now too as well. But it's like you get in these situations, you try to help somebody out, and it's like, oh, now I'm stuck here because the judge won't let me leave. That happens all the time where the judge does not let you withdraw, even if you want to, and even if sometimes the client wants to fire you.
Stand-in attorneys, and a lot of people have been giving me pushback and saying that in the transcript that I did not stand up for Rudy, and I did not say anything, and I let the state badger him, and I did not protect his rights. And I have been telling them that I didn't have a duty to Simone or Adrian, and that I allowed them to do what they wanted to do. And off the record, I talked to our client, which would not be in the transcript.
Right.
But
so she's saying she doesn't have a duty to Simone and Adrian are the prosecutors, and all these people accusing her of not protecting her client. She's, pushing back on that a little bit.
I think that people should know from the get-go here that Ms. Bumpus used to work for at the prosecutor's office, and Ms. Love was her supervisor. So,
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Could you explain to them what a stand-in attorney is and what's the role of a stand-in attorney?
Well, essentially, you were filling my role in this case. I had represented Kenneth for a while, and when the state surprisingly was intending to call him as a witness without speaking with me beforehand, I notified them that Kenneth didn't want to testify.
Throwing a little shade at the state. They're going to call him without notifying me, knowing that I represent him, right?
We had a hearing in front of Judge Glanville. Glanville said we were going to reconvene the hearing on Monday. Well, that Monday, June the 10th, was not a good day for me because I had plans to go out of town. So I called you and I said, please help me out here. Just come in court. All Kenneth wants to do is take the fifth. And then all this happened.
Okay, and then another thing people have been just bashing me about is if Melnick was there, he would have never let this meeting go on.
Well, and I mean, this is a first of its kind type of thing that I've ever seen anywhere. So I don't know that any lawyer has enough experience or knowledge or know-how to deal with these types of issues that you were presented with that day, something that I never would have anticipated. I certainly anticipated that the state was going to try to get Kenneth to testify, but I never would have anticipated that you would have been summoned into a courtroom in front of a judge with a court reporter and several deputies, and both prosecuting attorneys, or all the prosecuting attorneys, and that this would have happened. I've never heard of it happening before, and neither has anybody else.
Okay, so you don't have to answer this. I think we talked about this. You can say no. Okay, but this is what we're gonna do, Melnick. You got 3 questions I'm gonna ask you, right? So
okay.
One, you can plead the 5th on one. You can get forced immunity on one, and the 3rd one you gotta answer. Okay.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Everybody wants to know: did you file the bar complaint on Adrian?
No, I have not.
Okay. Okay. Well, now you got 3 more.
So they asked, did he file a bar complaint on the prosecutor, Miss Love? And he said, no, he did not. And that's an indication, just lawyers don't like filing bar complaints against other lawyers, usually, especially good lawyers. Like, usually we should be able to figure it out and make this happen on our own without having to file bar complaints. Sometimes we're forced into because we have a duty to, depending on what happens, but it's never our first resort.
Gotta go. Okay, so no bar complaint on Adrian. Okay, everybody wants to know: did you really send Adrian an email that says "F you"?
It's very misunderstood. Okay, I didn't just say "F you." All right. Here's the context. I had sent an email, and I'm not looking at the emails right now, so this is not verbatim. I'd sent an email saying, Kenneth has always said that he didn't want to testify. You knew this, and you've created this situation. Ms. Love sent me a response saying, whose interests are you looking out for? Are you looking out for Kenneth's interests, or are you looking out for the interests of Mr. Steele's client and Mr. Shart's client?
So we read this exchange already, and now we're getting his side of the story. We kind of got the states in the ex parte hearing. Now we're getting his side of the story with these kind of nasty email exchange back and forth.
Which is an implication that I'm doing anything, that I'm trying to help out somebody else's client, that I don't have my own client's best interest at heart, which is essentially the worst thing you could ever accuse an attorney, a criminal defense attorney, of doing. So I wrote her back and I said, if that's what you think that I'm doing, if you think I'm doing anything other than protecting Kenneth Copeland, then you can go F yourself. Those were my exact words. Maybe not the best choice of words I've ever used. So anyway, but I did send the infamous email.
Okay, and so we just thank you so much for coming on here. What do you think is going to happen with this trial being on pause? Do you think that Judge Cross should recuse herself, or how do you feel about what's next?
Well, I think the case should go to somebody outside of Fulton County, somebody who does not have an ongoing professional relationship with Judge Glanville and with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. I think they need to bring a judge in from outside the county to hear the motion to recuse.
Do you think that if this...
So that's something we talked about, and you would agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do as well.
Goes to the Fulton, if this trial were to go anywhere other than Fulton County, that these guys would get a fair trial?
Whew, that's a tough one. You mean Jeffrey Williams and everybody else? Would they get a fair trial if it were transferred out of Fulton County?
Yeah.
Whew. I'm trying to think of where cases, if there's ever been a change of venue out of Fulton County and where they've gone to. So if the case were to be transferred out of Fulton County, it would have to go to a county with comparable demographics. And one county that comes to mind that I think would have comparable demographics is Chatham County, which is Savannah. Would they get a fair trial in Savannah? I don't know. It's a really good question. It's really hard to say. I think they get a fair trial. Whether they get the outcome they want is a different story.
All right. Well, we know
nobody can answer that, but he thinks potentially it gets transferred out of Savannah. That would mean we redo the whole thing. Oof. Oof. Did you say something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, Attorney Melnick is preparing for a murder trial that's going out on Monday, so we can't take too much of his time, but we want to say thank you so much for coming on here. You are the missing piece to the whole story. Everybody's question is Melnick still in Alaska with the non-refundable ticket?
Alaska was beautiful, by the way.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Kayla. Take care.
Okay, good luck.
All right, now we're going to jump to when Copeland joins. Anything you want to say about Melnick, about that exchange? Nothing really surprising there. Did you hear anything that... Go ahead.
Nothing surprising. After we hear both these, I think we're probably both going to comment about how extraordinary this is.
The world? You mean like the world we live in with YouTube and how this just like appears publicly for everybody to watch? Like this does not happen, folks. This is
This is so extraordinary. Let's go ahead and do the second extraordinary part.
Yeah. So we get the lawyer to talk about the emails, respond to the state, just on YouTube hanging out. And now we get the man in question that they've been listening to days of his testimony back and forth, what they're going to clip out. He said he's going to lie to a judge. He said he committed crimes he didn't commit. He says all sorts of things and is the kind of centerpiece for all this controversy. And he's just going to pop on his phone in his car here for YouTube. And let's hear what he has to say.
I'm here to talk about y'all. It's Mr. Copeland. You just missed Melnick.
I'll watch it.
Oh, okay.
So he said he watched Melnick being on.
Woody, is the transcript complete? You say no?
So there's confirmation right there. The transcript is not complete. The ex parte secret hearing transcript where the judge said he gave the whole transcript is not complete. Sounds bad, but we're going to get some more clarification on it as the video goes on.
You know that.
So guys, I just want to say that even though Woody fired me, as you all know, I still have to protect his interests. And I want to say we will not be talking about the case. He cannot answer anything. As you guys have seen over and over again, the state is watching. I'm sure they're on. Say hi to the state, everybody, because we know they're watching. So we got to protect.
So she's literally saying hi to the state attorney that's prosecuting this case. Like this could literally become an exhibit here with Copeland coming on. And she's like, I know he fired me, but I mean, I don't even know what this is exactly as far as explaining to people out there watching that don't understand, attorney-client relationship, how sometimes it works. Like there's sometimes strategy in a client firing a lawyer or a lawyer withdrawing. I mean, there's so much going on here that doesn't make a lot of sense or just seems like not the real world or the Twilight Zone or something, but here we are.
I don't know what the future is going to bring, but as we sit here today, this case is 1 in a million. But who knows what the future is going to bring with trials? In the middle of trials, maybe witnesses are going to come out and be interviewed by people and on YouTube, and who knows what's going to happen. And this is strange because this was his former lawyer that's interviewing.
And he fired publicly in front of everybody. She fired. Remember? I mean, that's
yeah.
I think. I mean, I don't know. She seems to be about my age, maybe even a little bit younger. Maybe like the next generation of lawyers is going to do stuff like this. I don't know.
She's been out of the state attorney's office. I think she said 8 years, 7 or 8 years.
Okay. So yeah, she's probably practicing, what am I, 11 years, 12, 11 years. So she's probably right around there. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like I have a pretty good hold on what goes on in YouTube, and I didn't necessarily expect this. So here we go.
Woody, we don't want anything to come of this. But what questions do you have? Woody, did you fire me for real? Have they released you, or do you still have to go back?
They better release me.
Have they released you, or did they say they may call to ask you some more questions? No, nothing. Huh?
I mean, that's literally about the case, which she's like, we're not going to talk about the case. We're not going to answer anything. I mean, are they going to call you back out? Do they have more questions for you? Feels like part of the case to me.
Do you have anything you want to say to everybody? No.
You all right?
I'm okay. All right, everybody say thank you for joining us to Woody.
Yeah, because I don't know what I'm doing on here, so.
Well, you're doing a good job. Everybody, drop a green heart for Woody. Let's see green hearts. Come on, let me get some green hearts.
Not no green heart. You know how these people play. Put a white
I
heart.
love green. That's my favorite color. I've been making.
Yeah, I love green too.
Okay, let's drop pink hearts for Woody.
Yeah, pink will do it.
Okay, let's do pink hearts. Come on, let's get some pink hearts, Woody.
Everything we do, you know how they do it. You know what's going on.
I mean, there's so much like code in there that I don't even want to speculate on what he means.
Look, Woody, so do you think that how you feel about all these memes on the internet? Do you think they're funny?
No, these people see me out.
He drops for a second, but he comes back.
All these things are funny. No. Do you like when people keep trying to record you and walk up on you?
No.
You want them to stop?
So I think he's talking about the attention he's gotten from the case, from the videos, from being in court.
When I heard this, I just kind of put his name in, There's all sorts of videos of him walking around Atlanta or driving around Atlanta. People are videoing him and taking pictures of him all over the place.
Wow.
And he mentions that. He mentions that here, and he's right. They are.
And he does not like it. In case anybody's
No.
watching, don't do it.
No.
Doesn't seem fun. Also doesn't seem like a guy you want to mess with.
I think they be trying to get my location, and I'm gonna get their ass if they do get my location up.
Well, y'all know Woody gonna be Woody. So you don't ever sit back and look at some of these moments from court and just laugh? You gotta laugh because that's what. Hey,
I was too drained to look at them, but when I did look at them, I was like, "What the fuck?"
And like I said, sometimes, me and Woody, we have conversations, but I'm going to be transparent. One day I text him, I say, a lot of people are laughing about this and they think it's funny, but this is really draining and this is our real lives. And whew. So I want everybody to just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you see him. Don't walk up on him. Don't record him. He is still a person. And
I take a picture, but y'all got to understand, bro.
It seems like he'd take a picture if you're like a fan or something and you want to get in like a selfie with him, but he doesn't want you like running up on him, recording him and stuff.
Every smile ain't no finished smile.
Right.
You feel me? Like, if you want to take a picture, I'll take a picture, but out there sneaking recording me, man, I'm very paranoid. And I'm paranoid for our safety.
That's right. Well, also, let's talk about, we're going to talk about some things. You got time to talk about some things in the transcript, Woody?
You trying to see me back to jail?
No, in the transcript, it's public record. Everybody has seen the transcript.
Yeah, but
She's like, we're not going to talk about this case. Let's talk about the transcript. And he's like, you trying to get me sent back to jail? It's like, there's just such a fine line here with doing stuff like this that it just makes me nervous. The whole time I was watching this, I was like biting my tongue.
How they playing it?
I just want to talk about one thing. It's not about the facts of the case. I just want, everybody says that I did not help you in that room and I let them badger you and that I did not protect you. Is that how you felt that day?
You want to prove yourself to people they don't care shit about you?
I'm just asking you, is that how you felt or do you feel like we were on the same team that day?
You know what's going on, right?
Yes.
You know how it played out, right?
Know how it played out.
So why it matter what people think?
Just answering the questions for him. But you're right. So that's his answer.
Well, you answer the question for me. Tell him. You can speak for me on that. Tell him.
Well, the transcript speaks. It says, I don't trust anybody. I trust her.
Self-explanatory. You know me, man. Hey, they probably come kick my door in the morning. They try to get me.
Okay, Woody, well, we won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for joining us. Everybody say thank you to Mr. Copeland.
All right, you take care. And hey, don't stop. Don't be trying to prove yourself to these people. They don't care. You know how good you are. You feel me?
Thank you.
All right, you take care. For sure. How you get up?
So she's trying to like answer, people that are pushing back on her and stuff and talking about how he trusts her. And it's weird to get this context, right? And like what people are thinking while they're in that ex-parte hearing.
When would you ever think a former lawyer, while a trial is still active, would call a former client who is actively a witness in which litigation is ongoing? They'd call it there and interview them in public. I've never imagined that anything like that would happen.
Me neither.
No.
All right, so she talks right now a little bit about what was left out of the transcript and whether or not it was important.
Okay, so now we got two things cleared up. Melnick doesn't hate me and Woody doesn't hate me. So why should you? So everyone should love me now. Whether you believe it or not. Okay, we'll talk about what's missing from the transcript. So I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. As far as that goes, I do not honestly think that anything is missing that is pertinent from the transcript. And when I say that, when I don't necessarily think anything is missing, I think that we went off the record at a certain point and that stuff was cut off, but I don't think it was anything that would have changed the outcome of what has happened.
So it's like in every transcript, when you go off the record, it's not going to be transcribed. She already mentioned when she went off the record to talk to her client, a privileged conversation, Obviously, that's not transcribed. She says nothing pertinent, nothing important, nothing that would have changed the outcome of the hearing was outside the transcript, which to me ratifies the transcript in what we read and what we learned in the context and the word said as being accurate, right? That's kind of what I'm getting from reading between the lines here of her comments. Do you agree?
Oh, yes. I didn't know it was a
I was
question.
waiting for a response. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
The things that were said that were off the transcript, they were very, 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 very minute. There was nothing from the judge that was said off the record. And
the little like cheeky exchange between her and Woody before didn't make me feel like this was going to be the answer or the outcome. They're like, is the transcript full? He goes, it's not, stuff's missing or whatever. And it's just like, that made me think they were going to like reveal, there was going to be some big reveal. And then they're like, yeah, but nothing.
I mean, this is a pretty interesting admission by her.
Right.
I mean, this is really important because if anybody would know something's missing, she would.
And like if the defense attorneys are going to argue later something's missing or it's not an accurate or full transcript, this feels like Exhibit A.
And right, this is evidence. I mean, this is evidence.
This is like, she's not under oath, but this is a statement that if she changes her statement, could be used to refresh her recollection or impeach her that this is an inconsistent statement. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think she knows what she's saying, and I think her statement would be consistent in a future hearing. It's just interesting that now this is out there, and this is something that could absolutely be used as evidence that the transcript, all the important stuff is in the transcript.
And there was, honestly, there was nothing there were just some like kiki conversations. But for the most part, I believe all of the information contained in the transcript did what it was supposed to do. Up until this date, I believe there have been several, well, and you say why off the record is because we just went off the record. It's just like, say a hearing was over and the judge says, okay, now we're off the record. And then I say something to someone else in the courtroom. Whatever I say then won't be on the record, but doesn't mean it wasn't said. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't important, but what is Sadie doing? Sadie, hold on, let's get it.
All right. We're going to jump ahead a little bit and talk about her timeline. She has a bunch of different people on. I don't know who everybody is, but she has a bunch of different conversations, and we can learn from what kind of the light that she sheds on the entire process.
I was already discharged. I was already fired when we came into that courtroom. But I told everybody, and I told Woody, I'm going to stay until the end of Monday to make sure that you are released from custody, even though you discharged me. And so you guys saw it way after I had already been fired. And like I said, that was at the direction of Attorney Melnick, who I was there for. If he chose to testify, it was my duty to then be discharged. And so that's what happened. But as an officer of the court and with my prior representation of Mr. Copeland, I wasn't going to just leave him there and throw him to the wolves. So I stayed. He was discharged. I mean, he was excused at around 5:59 or sometime. So that's when I left the court as well. However, we know there was that whole additional part about with Ashley Merchant, who did an amazing job. And after that's over, we hear Glanville say, "Where is Kayla Bumpus?" And I am watching on live like, oh my God, why is he looking for me? What's going on? And so pretty much I was then told that I needed to come back on Tuesday. When I get back on Tuesday, as you guys know who was in that meeting, and everybody, you read the transcript and I say, my favorite part is, who, me? Because it was never any indication that I would have to stay past Monday. So in efforts, because everybody was trying to tell Judge Abel, you can't keep her, you can't keep her, you can't keep her. And once that didn't work, Woody came to my rescue like, okay, if you not gonna let her go, I'm gonna fire her. You fired, okay? And so that's really how that went. And I say a lot of people who were paying attention and who saw, and I think maybe Miss Sylvia saw, but a lot of people saw when I even say to him, thank you so much. A lot of people I've seen have saw that I said that to him. Because had he not done that, I probably would have had to stay for 10 days.
All for the trial to be paused anyway.
Oh, but to answer the question, I go to Simone and Adrian because they were in the room when he fires me. Also, another thing we talked about is that there are rules of ethics that attorneys have to go by. And one of those rules is that if you know somebody is lying, you cannot assist them in lying on the stand. Everybody.
Correct. Assist them in lying on the stand. But The general part is you wanted to talk about the timeline of when she was discharged, when he fired her in open court to try to help her out to let her leave.
Right. Because when she first came in, the prosecution tried to separate her from her client, saying, you don't represent him. And she said, I do represent him. And there was a deliberate attempt to keep her away from Woody. And she won. She got to Woody. But the prosecutors were really, I think, very wrong in trying to separate her from her client.
Okay, next thing we're going to jump to is her exchange with Woody via text.
The only mention of anything pertaining to Mr. Copeland's safety is when ADA Love says something
no
about...
one's going to kill him, right? Hold on, let's go to that. I know where that is. That was wild. That really annoyed me.
And, I'm watching this from home, and the first thing I do is I text Woody, and I say, are you scared? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, are you watching this? When did any...
So that's interesting. I guess not privileged since she doesn't represent him, but one of the big issues that you brought up again when we were reading that transcript and talking about the multiple ways of why you could give him immunity and hold him in contempt and all this stuff. And one of the arguments is his fear of bodily safety or being in imminent harm. And you were like, they didn't really talk about it. And then turns out he's not scared.
Right. That's a reason for an emergency hearing. Emergency ex parte hearing was, for his safety. They didn't talk about it. And now we see he had no fear. So that argument's going to go out the window when they're trying to justify this emergency ex parte hearing.
Which again, could really be a big point in the recusal hearing.
Yes.
That they just were making up reasons to try to do this emergency ex parte outside the presence of defendants and defense counsel. And that's a major issue. There was one other thing I was going to say about that. I can't remember what it was. With all the other reports that like one of his acquaintances or friends or something passed away or something may have happened to them, people were trying to use that. None of that came in. They weren't talking about that. There's nothing official on the record about that in this case, but neither was this text message, right? This text message, happened after the fact, I guess, but that wasn't put on the record. Nobody even asked him if he was afraid, which is just wild to think about. When they had this ex parte hearing, they did this big ordeal and nobody even bothered to ask him.
And once again, this is evidentiary. If he should testify that he was scared, then someone's going to pull this email out and say, isn't it true that you responded to Miss Bumpus here that you weren't scared? So we're creating evidence here. As we speak and as we watch, evidence is being created.
Was that all you wanted from that clip?
Yeah.
All right. Next, we're going to go to, this is more about, worrying about the repercussions of our client and keeping her away from her client. So a little more on that.
Everything's been exposed. There's nothing more that I know. People are like, oh, you're with, I've exposed everything that I can expose. And also I want people to understand that even though Judge Glanville says he has no interest in pursuing the matter anymore, my motion to quash is still outstanding. And the new judge, Judge Cross, who has been assigned to hear the motion to recuse, has put out an order that the state has to provide a written response to my motion. So there's still a possibility that, someone could hear or see something that I'm doing and believe that, hey, what really happened? And then I'm back in a precarious situation. I don't think I've done anything. I know I have not done anything wrong, but what you guys have to understand is that when your bar license and your ability to practice and your reputation is at the hand of another person, you have to humble yourself.
By the way, she just mentioned that it is going to be Fulton County Superior Court Judge Rachel Cross who is going to make the determination onto whether or not Glanville is going to be recused. So even though Melnick and even though we and everybody thinks somebody outside Fulton County should make this decision, it's not. It's going to be one of Glanville's colleagues, Judge Rachel Cross.
My guess is they're going to file a motion, though, at some point to get her off.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And if you can't humble yourself, then, anything goes.
And then I've got a question. So Kimberly Brown is asking, was Miss Love in the room the whole time? Because it looks like from the transcript that she swaps out of there when Hilton comes in.
That's what happened.
swapped out.
Mhm.
Again,
And-
more context. That might be a gray area in the words.
For people saying that, I am with the state, I'm 100%. If I was with the state, why would I sit down with the defense? And, like I say, someone else definitely gave them a nudge about what happened. But there is no part of me that denies that I sat down with them.
So first off, she's saying somebody else gave them the nudge. Somebody else was the initial leak to the defense. We don't know who that is at this point. We don't know. But she also says, I sat down with them.
And gave them a legal perspective, a defense attorney perspective as to what happened in that meeting. And I don't think that they would have had the information that they had without me. However,
so that's an interesting admission as well. We know that the order to show cause has now been found to be moot, but interesting admission, right? That she did sit down and provide a legal perspective, and they would not have known what they know without me and our little sit down.
I can't lie and say I was the first person because I was in the courtroom protecting my halfway in, halfway out client. And, what was also very concerning to me, which I don't think I've told anybody this, is that when I went into the courtroom on Tuesday, when I was summoned back at 9:30, the first thing I said is, I need to talk to Mr. Copeland. And it's so crazy to me. This is something I 100% did not agree with, is the state, and it wasn't Simone, and it wasn't Adrian, but the prosecution team tells me, you're not his attorney. You can't talk to him. Just like that. And I say, well, what am I doing here? And they kept me away from Woody the whole morning prior to him coming in the courtroom. As soon as he steps foot in the courtroom, before he gets on the stand, he goes, where's Kayla? And I'm sitting right there because at this point, I refuse to sit where the attorneys sit. I refuse to sit anywhere near the prosecution. And I'm sitting with the family and the regular people because that's the only people I trust in the courtroom at that point.
Yeah, and then people are going to make something out of that too, but...
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's strange.
Yeah.
What?
And so then I'm like, well, why am I here if I can't talk to him? So he comes in the courtroom, he's like, I need to talk to Kayla. Because now everybody is confused.
Yeah, something ain't right about that.
And then
keeping
he
you away from your own
says,
client.
you're not released. And I'm like, well, they saying I can't talk to him. He's saying I'm not released. What is going on?
Yeah.
I would say and obviously there are things in the affidavits that are a little bit more specific, but at that point, I would imagine someone who's had a lot of experience in the courtroom could put two and two together that possibly the witness plans to lie on the stand, and that's why the attorney is halfway in, halfway out. That's why Kayla Bumpus is halfway in, halfway out. So every time I hear a little bit more, I'm like, why is Glanville so focused on thinking who told and that the who may have been Kayla, when it could have been apparent on its face to any of the attorneys sitting in the room, just to make an educated guess that this ex parte meeting was about exactly what it was about.
But you know what?
Well, nobody would guess that because it's not supposed to be an ex parte meeting for that purpose. That's one of the reasons nobody guessed it. Anything you wanted to add about that part?
Well, it's outrageous to me that the prosecutors would insert themselves between the witness and a lawyer. Even if they did not think she was his lawyer, it was none of their business. The relationship between the client and the lawyer is only between the client and the lawyer. And a prosecutor to step in the middle of that, that's outrageous. And the fact they kept her away, successfully kept her away, also outrageous. The judge believed she was his lawyer, and that's all that mattered. He's the only one that mattered, not the state. So it's none of their business, and they really, really overstepped their authority.
That would be like state and law enforcement being like, no, you can't talk to this lawyer because they must not be your lawyer. You don't know. He could have rehired her. There's all sorts of things that could happen that.
Oh, absolutely. It's outrageous.
You're just better off just not doing that, right? And not stepping on people's rights as law enforcement and state attorneys. And this is not like a battle, and these are kind of shots that are normal that are happening from a lawyer's perspective, from people who have been prosecutors. No go. No way. Like 101, don't do this. All right, this is the last clip we're going to watch.
Responsibility, but the judge. Like I said, I don't necessarily know if anybody, and I say this with all good intentions. It was nobody's responsibility but the judge, but the court to stop it. It wasn't my responsibility. The state gonna do their job, and they just did their job, but it wasn't my responsibility to stop it. It was the judge's.
Hey, Kayla. I've got to jump off, but you're going to have to.
So when she talks about that, and again, we talked about the ex parte hearing, we kind of had a bigger problem with the state than the judge. She's saying she has a bigger problem with the judge than the state, and the state's going to do their job. So react to that. Let me know what you think, because I still think the state way overstepped, and the state does have some element of self-policing. The
Well,
state.
I think she said.
Sorry, go ahead.
There, okay. I think she said that, frankly, because she's a former prosecutor. She has said, and again, there's nothing wrong. You are professional with your former colleagues, and you do treat them with respect. And she viewed this from Miss Love's perspective, because Miss Love was her former supervisor, that Miss Love was doing her job. All right, that's the way she's viewing it. We don't view it like that because we're outside that courtroom and we can look at it. And I think it's wrong. I think Miss Love was doing far more than what she should have done. But it was also the judge's responsibility, because we talked about a sin of omission, in that he did not take control of what was going on there, and instead he just let Miss Love run it.
So one of the issues is, if Miss Love was really her supervisor, maybe she thinks this is normal and this is the state just doing their job. If that's how she learned, that's how she was taught, that's how she came up as a young lawyer learning how to do it. And that can happen. And that's how sometimes certain habits can get passed down from one lawyer to the next. Everybody you learn from, everybody that's a mentor of yours, teaches you how to be a lawyer and what's right and wrong. And so maybe she does think that that's just Miss Love doing her job. We don't. Does not look like it to me. Never how I was taught or would be taught or would teach anybody else. No. Obviously not appropriate and not the way you should do it based on how we read the transcript. And obviously the judge had a hand in it too, not being the referee, not being the boss of the courtroom, not doing the job and laying down the law. But at the same time, same thing we say with cops. Don't break the rules if you're a cop. Nobody should have to tell you not to break the rules. Same thing as a prosecutor. Don't break the rules. They're held to certain standards and proper protocols and procedures. So is there anything else? Go ahead.
I know prosecution offices where this is the instruction. They're worried about doing something wrong because they're worried about appeal and getting reversed. I know prosecution officers where the supervisors say, look, you got to win before there's an appeal. So don't worry about the appeal. Don't worry about doing wrong stuff. Go ahead and get the conviction, and then we'll worry about the appeal. And that's not the attitude to have.
Yeah. I mean, and most of the time you prosecute cases, you win. But even more, most of the time, when they appeal, you win. So that's why they don't care about getting into appeal. And we've heard Judge Glanville say he'll take it up on appeal, because it's so hard to win an appeal, even harder than winning a criminal case at trial, which is difficult in and of itself. So anything else, just overarching thoughts about Bumpus, Melnick, Copeland, her thoughts, getting it on YouTube, extension of time, anything else just before we go?
I think I've said it. I think this is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. And it will be, I don't know anybody that's going to watch this in the country that's a criminal defense lawyer. It's not going to go. They're just, I mean.
Jaw-dropping stuff. Yeah, it's interesting, and we'll keep following. You guys sent me this. Keep sending me the stuff that you're interested in. We'll keep breaking it down. We were going to do a live today. Timing didn't work out. We will get a live for the Young Thug trial here at some point. But I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to our page. Until next time, we're out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.